Hello and welcome to my channel, I Win to Lose Gaming. Today, we are here to take a look at a sneak peek for Trigger, the upcoming new character in Zenless Zone Zero. So for those of you wondering what you get when you pull for Trigger, well, let us go through a whole bunch of stuff, including her animations, overworld animations, her kit, at least an overall summary of her kit and what makes her powerful, or not according to some people, but I think she's pretty good, as well as quite a few showcases to run you guys through. So first thing is the overworld animations, and I'm actually going to just remove myself, and you guys can just take a look for yourselves. This video was filmed on the early access server and is not indicative of the final product. There may be some changes on release, so be sure to check the comments down below to see if there are any. Trigger is an electric stun agent who specializes on off-field aftershock damage, as well as a decent amount of daze to help you stun your enemies. Not only that, but she also provides some pretty big damage buffs to the team. So let's take a look at how she works in combat. And with that out of the way, we can take a look at her actual kit in combat. So how does Trigger work in combat? Well, first of all, she's got this resource up here in the top left, I believe called Purge. And in order to fill up the Purge resource, we just click and hold the charge attack where she goes into this really sick charge sniping attack. And this also fills up her Purge, and you can end it with a finishing shot. And one really cool thing about this sniper animation mode thing is that she actually has an auto dodge right there, and it triggers a quick assist to the previous character in your team. Now that she's off field and she has a bunch of purges, you can just hit the enemy, and every 3 seconds or so she will do one of those cool coordinated attacks, and those attacks count as aftershock damage. So we can see here that Trigger will build up a modest amount of days, all at the cost of, you know, a little bit of purge. Like this amount of purge lasts for a very long time, and from basic attacks and most attacks it is just a 3-second cooldown. However, you can also do an EX attack, do this fire, where she now does that like a bunchish flurry of shots, as well as that in order to do a bit of additional daze. So we can see that she is an off-field stun agent with all these things that she provides. But the thing that makes Trigger so good is, yes, while that does do a bit of damage and it does do some daze, we can see here that there is this damage multiplier right here, 135%. And this is technically the stun damage multiplier. However, this multiplier will be active all the time against the enemy as long as Trigger hits him with the, her aftershock damage, which effectively is all the time. And this is because of Trigger's core skill, which is what makes her so strong, is when Trigger's aftershock hits an enemy, the target stun damage multipliers increase by 35% for 5 seconds. Not that big of a deal because you'd have to stun the enemy to take advantage of this. However, this stun damage multiplier increase will apply even if the target isn't stunned. So that takes us to this example. In the left, we just have Anby, whose normal attack is doing 2,261 damage. Then with Trigger having hit the enemy recently, you can also see the 135% damage multiplier. Now, all your damage is just multiplied by 35%. And finally, on the right, we have Trigger with her signature Wenjin, where her signature Wenjin also shreds defense by 25%. Therefore increasing Anby's damage by 54%. So not only does Trigger deal some damage with aftershock, not only does she build up a pretty decent amount of daze while off field, but she also boosts your damage by a significant amount, and these are two multipliers that are largely untouched by the rest of the cast. So the next thing that you're probably wondering, okay, well, what about her stunning speed? So unfortunately, when it comes to how fast she stuns the enemy, no surprise, she's going to take longer to stun the enemy in comparison to dedicated stunners, even with the attack agent on field helping out. But what this means is that because your attack agent is attacking the enemy, that means the enemy is probably taking more damage than from your stun agent. So in this example, between an M0U1 trigger versus an M0U1 Qingyi, with both teams using the same amount of resources, and assuming trigger starts with purge, which, let's be honest, you pretty much just do it once per fight at the very beginning, it took trigger about half a second faster in this specific example to take out this enemy, which is obviously incredibly anecdotal, but it serves to show that yes, she still stuns pretty fast, and even though she doesn't quite stun as fast as, for example, Qingyi, the additional damage that Anby does help make up for that. Now there are a few more cool details about her kit, like for example, if you just use her EX special, you'll now see that her bar thing turns yellow, as well as Anby's icon was flickering, so you could do a quick assist. So let's go ahead and do that again, and we're gonna quick assist Anby back on. And what this does is that it basically removes the cooldown from her basic attack harmonizing shot, which is that thing where she's doing that flurry of attacks. And also, when you do the EX special, the yellow version of it, it does not consume any purge. And her EX special allows you to perform 4 of those for free, and her ultimate allows you to perform 6 of those for free. So if you do both of them in a row, then we go to Anby. And now you can see she's just going to go crazy for a very long time as we wall up the enemy. You can see her going with all her aftershock attacks. Yeah, that is how you pretty much use her. So she is a very low field time character who really allows your main DPS character to be on field in order for her to perform her aftershock coordinated attacks for your team, all while buffing the team while doing so. So yeah, in order to use trigger, pretty much all you have to do is shoot this 4 times at the beginning of a fight, then do the finisher attack, and now you have pretty much set up trigger for the rest of the fight. Because now with a full bar of purge, she will just keep performing her coordinated attacks or aftershock attacks once every 3 seconds. Then if you want, some more days and more aftershock attacks, you can just swap her on, use her EX special, which triggers a quick assist, and there you go. Now trigger will be able to activate, some additional free and fast aftershock attacks. So yeah, very easy character to use and to maintain all of her buffs. Alright, and one more important detail about her core ability is that you really want to build trigger with a lot of crit rate, and to fulfill this additional ability you just need an attack agent or a lightning character on her team, because for each 1% crit rate over the 40% threshold, it increases her days dealt by aftershocks by 1.5%, up to a maximum increase of 75%. So this means you want 90% crit rate preferably to max out the additional days dealt by her aftershock attacks. Alright, I've got quite a few showcases for you guys, although not as many as I would have liked because I'm really strapped on time. Genshin Impact with the new patch, Wuthering Waves with this new patch, and now Zenless Zone Zero, all with a new character within such tight time windows has really been kicking my butt lately, so I'm sorry. This one doesn't have as many showcases as I would have liked, but we're going to start off with a free-to-play friendly Harumasa team. Triggers, drive sets are pretty good, or drive stats and subsets are pretty good, but Harumasas aren't quite as good. He is using the Mercado Desire, and I think I went over here to go for the defensive assist, because I think if you stand near that leg, the robot will try to step on you, which you can actually parry, unlike most of the things this robot does, you cannot parry it. So anyway, I don't know what I'm doing, and this is very painful to watch, but the reason for that is because I have not used Harumasa in a while. Every time I have to showcase this guy, I always forget, how the heck do I use him? And then, well, the cycle continues every single time. So then I kind of remember, oh, okay, you got to do the little arrow, or you got to get the little 6 balls on the field, or however many balls, and do the little arrow shots, so on and so forth, and then do the 3 dashes into this. But anyway, as we can see, Harumasa being the attacker as well as trigger, fulfilling her passive as well as I believe his, means that this is a pretty solid team overall, especially for free-to-play friendly players, because Harumasa is a pretty decent character, all things considered, and they are all using free-to-play friendly Wenjins as well. So in this case, because we don't do quite enough damage to kill it outside of the stun window, well, here we go. Now the trick is to stun it in order to take it out. And Trigger stuns at a pretty reasonable pace, considering she's not even on field for most of it. And for that matter, you can actually, do some more defensive assist dodge counters with Trigger if you do want to stun the enemy faster, because she does have pretty decent daze numbers for those. Although she doesn't really do much daze, actively. Like, she's not like Qingyi who spams all the B3s and the hold. You're much better off, if you want an active stunner to be like that. She's more of a reactive stunner if you do want to stun the enemy a bit faster. So the next team is probably one of her better teams on release. It is at least a better lightning team on release. It is a Anby team with Trigger, and of course these two do synergize quite well, being focused on aftershock and stuff like that. Now this team is actually pretty funny because I built my Trigger here with a DPS build, and she has her signature Wenjin as well. So we can see that the robot is nowhere near stun because I said forget it. I can't stun this thing in time before the robot dies, so we're just skipping stun windows, saying forget that, and we're just maximizing the damage on both Anby as well as Trigger. Now Trigger doesn't really make up that big of a percentage of the team's damage output, but hey, in this case, if you're not going to stun the enemy and if they're going to die anyway before they can get stunned, you may as well make Trigger hit a bit harder. So she's using the 4-piece Shadow Harmony, I believe that's what it's called, the one that boosts your attack crit rate a bit based on how many aftershocks you did. But yeah, look at that. Just like that in I think 40 something seconds, way faster than any of the more free-to-play friendly teams. But yeah, these are 3 premium characters with 3 premium Wenjins. You better hope for better performance. The more money you put down, the stronger the team. Next team is a soldier team. I really want to illustrate how flexible Trigger is when it comes to working with actually literally every single attacker in the game, at the very least against enemies that are not lightning resist, although I guess it doesn't matter too much because her universal buff multiplier will just work on any enemy regardless of whether they resist you or not, unlike Qingyi, who will actually daze slower, and she doesn't quite provide any buffs until the enemy is dazed. But anyway, this is another team where we're not going to be able to output enough damage in comparison to take out the butcher before stunning it, so we go for the stun. And here we go. Now we just do I guess a pretty poor rotation. Should have double chained with soldier instead of doing whatever the heck I did here. But you know what? Who cares? It doesn't matter. I mean, look, this is a weekly boss farming thing. It's not going to be incredibly difficult. But yeah, you're going to want to min-max things a bit more in like other types of content, but not this. Who cares? So yeah, anyway, here I think this fight is better for Trigger in some ways than the robot, because Trigger can, use her very high dazed defensive assist, which I don't even think I did. So here I am yapping about how this fight is better, even though, okay, here we go. We did do 1 defensive assist, but we didn't do the assist follow-up, so now things are very awkward. But yeah, anyway, here we go. Just the same, I guess, awkward lack of double chain rotation with Soldier, but we're going to be just fine. As we can see, we have another good option when it comes to pretty much most of the attackers in the game. I would say almost all the attackers. Some benefit more from higher field time than others, like Soldier can indeed do well with high field time because of, she can always have the fire infusion on her thing. Now this next team is an Ellen team, but this one's a little bit different. I decided to try to be a little bit more creative. We have a double stun team. We can stun the enemy a lot faster. And of course, Lycon provides some great buffs for ice characters, for Ellen. And yeah, so because we can go for double the stun agents, look at those double defensive assists, we should be able to stun the enemy quite fast here with an on-field Lycon, at which point afterwards, obviously, you're going to want to use Ellen in order to, output the actual damage of this team, because otherwise, yeah, who's doing the damage? But yeah, so here we go. Did I go for a double chain attack with this? I'm actually, if someone, I don't remember Ellen's frame data and MVs per second damage and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure she has one of the slower chain attacks, but still, everything is fine right now. Now the butcher goes into its, hey, I guess making a giant zit out of my back is the strategy for defeating, overpowered players. Now, unfortunately, I didn't quite get to, demonstrating Yanagi. Yanagi is a great character with Trigger because obviously Yanagi is an electric agent or lightning agent, and Trigger needs a lightning agent on her team to be fulfilled. So disorder teams that feature, for example, Yanagi as well as Miyabi, or Yanagi and a buffer, like for example, what's her face, Rina, they're also going to be very powerful teams with Trigger. So as we can see, because of that, any disorder team with Yanagi as well as, literally any attack agent, Trigger can do a great job supporting them, providing this 35% universal damage multiplier buff, as well as if you have her signature Wenjin, then, you can provide the 25% defense shred. And one more thing I forgot to mention is that she does synergize well with Nicole, because double defense shred means you're stacking that, which is a good thing. So, what do I think about Trigger? I think she is a pretty top tier, kind of more supportive / stun role, similar to Caesar, similar to Astra Yao. She's going to be another one of those characters where, it's kind of like a side grade between them. Like, she's going to be better in some situations, worse in, other situations, so on and so forth. She definitely has her benefits. And some people are saying that she needs her signature Wenjin. Yes, and I mean, her signature Wenjin is very powerful because, it bumps her supporting capabilities significantly. However, at the same time, it damages damage, and her signature Wenjin, just like most of the other signature Wenjins, just provide a damage buff. But because it touches a completely new multiplier, it is a very, very powerful signature Wenjin. So yeah, I mean, in my opinion, if you do go for Trigger, I do recommend her signature Wenjin as well. But as you can see, you are able to do just fine even with that signature Wenjin. If you like having kind of your attack agent on field more, like for example Anby, or heck, even any of these other teams I've showcased, then Trigger is a great option for you. So yeah, that's my opinion of Trigger. Another pretty solid 5-star, or sorry, S-rank agent that supports buffs damage, and in her case she also outputs a pretty solid amount of days, especially for her field time. Let me know what you guys think about Trigger down in the comments below. Are you going to pull for her? Are you not going to pull for her? And yeah, as always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Want to Lose, signing out.